Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our transatlantic conversation. For nearly 3 years, we've enjoyed the privilege of hosting association transformation for the international membership community. Over nearly 40 hours and 70 plus episodes, we've hosted more than 100 guests from the UK, the USA, Australia, South Africa, and many points in between. Regular listeners will know that over the years, we've covered a huge variety of topics, from change management, leadership relationships, and 4-day weeks, to financial strategy, income generation, and modern governance practice. And of course, who could possibly forget the unicorns and the puppy dogs episode? We really hope you enjoy every episode, and while we will always make our content freely available, remember, subscribe wherever you get your favorite pods. If you would like to lend us your support, you can do so by subscribing to the pod from as little as $5 a month. Now, hopefully it goes without saying that Elisa and I and the whole Association Transformation production team will appreciate your generosity and your ongoing support. To subscribe, visit patreon.com/Association Transformation and choose the monthly subscription level that suits you best. That's Patreon, patreon.com/Association Transformation. And remember, whatever you're up to today, put your members and your mission first. Enjoy the pod.
Well, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're coming to you from multiple continents at this point, right? I mean,
Yes, we are. Yes.
this is one of our most international conversations we've had in a while.
Well, if you throw in our Belgian
Wow.
listeners, it's like we're just like pure multiculturalism right here.
I mean, this is worldwide, baby, worldwide. Welcome to Association Transformation. I'm Elisa Pratt with Brewer Pratt Solutions. My co-host, the great Andrew Chamberlain. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I am getting to the end of my day now. It's 10 o'clock. I'm a bit weary, but
Yes.
but then I hit the podcast channel and I'm like, yeah, I'm up for it. Let's just keep recording.
Whatever it takes,
Yeah.
you know, we got to put the art first,
Oh.
Well, we are joined today by someone who's equally dedicated. I mean, it's, I think, only 7 a.m. her time. So we appreciate her early morning hours, but we are privileged to have Marion Short, CEO of the International Association for Public Participation, with us this morning. Marion, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, everybody. Or I should say greetings, shouldn't we? COVID has made us a real global, local community, hasn't it? But yes, Marion Short joining you from Meanjin, which is Brisbane in Australia. So, and I am the CEO of Ep81 Australasia, and it's so much fun to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you used the term in our prep, time zone fluid. So I like that. We're time zone fluid today, time zone friendly, and really addressing something that is, I would say, timeless, goes beyond any geographic limits, any time limits, and that's the discussion of data. Andrew and I have really been taking on some heavy topics lately. I mean, between tech and data and AI. Andrew, what are we doing? Where did the easy topics go?
I just long for the days where we used to just talk about hybrid events. I did. I love the meaty topics. I love it. And data is one of those topics that I actually just can't get enough of. I'm like, because it's like,
what?
No, I can't, because it's like, it's everywhere. It's everything. Everything.
You're right. We can't ignore it. It's part of it has to be part of our lexicon, our landscape, our strategy, all of it. We can't avoid it. And what's, I think, special about Marion being here and why she's such an expert in this, the organization that she heads, its whole mission is to achieve greater and more effective engagement, public participation, community engagement. And there has to be a whole lot of data wrapped up in not only getting people engaged, but then what you do with that once you have it. So I'm excited to get a little more detail. We first found out about Marion and her passion for data in the 2023 Association Evolve publication. I'm sorry I didn't know of you previously, Marion, but it was a great read, and it made it less scary. It made data feel approachable and attainable.
And I think CEOs as decision makers need good data. There's no doubt. And it's always a quest, isn't it? What is the data I need to make better decisions? And without it, we sort of a little bit lost. We're wandering through forests, not knowing where we're going, a little bit directionless. So I think data in itself can be a little bit of a dry subject, but data for decision making and being able to draw the key direction that you need to go in, but also some insights for future directions you should be considering. I think that's a really important priority for leadership of associations, but any organisation needs good data to inform decisions.
Absolutely. I mean, a couple of years ago, Elisa and I wrote articles for the IAL Almanac, and one of the chapters that a colleague of ours from the Equity Release Council, Jim Boyd, he wrote a chapter around evidence-led decision-making, and arguing that, too often, historically, we make, as association leaders, we tend to, or we've been guilty of, making decisions on a hunch, on a gut feeling, or because the vociferous member has, stood up and expressed their opinion loudly, and it becomes
the squeaky wheel.
Yeah, and it suddenly is taken as gospel that's what the holy membership, all of them think, because there's one individual or two individuals. So I think that concept of evidence or data-driven decision making is so fundamental, as you say, so fundamental to every aspect of our business decision making, particularly as we were chatting just before when you were saying that actually we're a local global community now, because here we are, multiple time zones, different days actually. We're having chats on different days, and we're having this conversation, and the reality is our markets are becoming squeezed, because we're able to work globally, internationally. We're able to tap into markets we weren't accessing previously. So to be able to have some kind of strategy, not just a commitment, but a strategy that says, this is how we're going to understand, or actually more to the point, collect the right data, understand that data, use it, creatively in our business development and our business decision making is huge. But one of the issues that I struggled with as a CEO, and I think many of our contemporaries are still struggling with, is, well, what does a data strategy actually look like? I mean, I walk in, and you do the same, Lise. We walk in and we say, you totally need to have a data strategy, but for God's sake, don't ask us what it looks like.
How do you do that? How do you do that? And actually, the data you need has to help you support your overarching strategy. And I wanted to add it to your list of people that distract you from making data-driven decisions, and that's popular opinion. And I think that's a really hard one as well, because everybody, and so as a decision maker, going against popular opinion is I think it's one of the hardest things, because they're little faces, they all think they're right. But a data strategy doesn't need to be complicated. And so I quite often, I talk about my 3 S's with my team all the time. We need data to help drive sales. These are going to sound very commercial, and I do have a commercial background, and so maybe a little bit uncomfortable for associations. But we all need money. We need money to transform our organisations. We need money to achieve our purpose. We need money to achieve all of those member value initiatives. So what data do I need to drive sales? What data do I need to drive savings? It's quite typical coming into organisations, associations, to just smell the inefficiencies, isn't it? We've got our old ways of doing things. We've been confined by money or systems, or that fabulous person who's been with us 30 years, and we're just not going to mess with the way they do things. So sales, savings, and the big one, of course, is service. What are our services? What are the products and services that we're offering, and how are we offering it? to our members and our customers, because we work in big markets now. So we're not necessarily just servicing our members. So I talk about members and market. So I think when you think about those three things, I need data to build sales, I need data to drive savings, and I need data to focus on my service and services. So they're my three big things. And then if you can just do three things under each one of those, it's just a really simple framework to start. Because I think having a data strategy is an evolution. I think it's like going on a quest. You find one little breadcrumb and you want the next one. Oh, this is interesting. What's it telling me? How do I find out a little bit more about this? What is the data I need to do? And I think the big thing for CEOs is we have to be so can-do about this. We can do this. We can find this data. And because you have to inspire your staff to collect data for you, because it's everywhere. Data is siloed everywhere in your organization. So you have to get it, the treasure hunt, to find your data. And then you have to bring it together in some consolidated and meaningful way so that people can start seeing, what is the real picture that we're looking at? But what are some trends and insights that we can draw from this to actually make better decisions?
And, when you say data's everywhere, which I think we all agree with more so than ever, that leads me to think that analysis paralysis is that much more likely for organizations than ever before. It's easier to get lost in all that and maybe not be focused on the right data. We've all heard the term KPI, key performance indicator. It's kind of one of those corporate buzzwords, but you had a great story where you really put KPIs in context for me, and that was the Happy Meal KPI. Can you share that with Andrew?
Well, it's a story I heard a long time ago, Andrew, was that apparently McDonald's has a Happy Meal KPI. And it's because the number of Happy Meals that we sell today are an indicator of future customers. So the families that are buying Happy Meals for their kids, so you as a 5-year-old, love your Happy Meal, love your little toy, you're going to grow up and bring your kids back to McDonald's to buy them a Happy Meal. So this quest around a Happy Meal KPI, and it's actually a really difficult thing to do. It sounds really simple, and the analogy makes it sound really simple, but it's really difficult to achieve. And we went down a couple of rabbit holes before settling on our Happy Meal KPI.
And you mentioned our Happy Meal. Oh, go ahead. Please.
No. What was your question?
I was just going to ask what yours were. I mean, you listed out some big data points, and are your organization's KPIs, your Happy Meal KPIs, the same as they were before, and what are they?
No, well, I think big data is really important, because big data, particularly for boards, so you're taking boards on a transformation journey. So you do need big data, and that I just collect the high things. What are my revenue? What are my total expenses? What is my GP? What does my profit look like? How many employees do I have? How many members do I have? And how many people did I train? I call it the big data. And year on year, so I pulled it together for about 10 years. It tells a story, and it transforms conversations. So if you're not collecting your big data, collect your big data, because your boards need it. Yeah, absolutely. If they haven't got it in front of them every year when they're looking at their business plan and budget, do it, because it supports your story around transformation and growth. But my Happy Meal KPI, we sat down with the leadership team initially to say, well, what is it? What is the thing that's going to say we're valued as a brand and organization, that people are engaging with us, and we actually initially went with the number of jobs that are on our job board, because we thought, well, people are placing job advertisements with us. They must value us as the go-to organization, rah, 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 rah. And it was slow and it was low, and it just didn't feel right. And, it's sort of, Andrew, that instinct of CEOs, it's the scar tissue of the whip marks on our backs, isn't it? So, sometimes you got to go, I just don't think this is right. And so whilst we were doing this, we were also getting much more granular financial data from our CFO. And he was great. He said, what do you want? He was really excited about it, actually. And I think it's an accountant thing, isn't it? They want to give you as much granular data as they can. And truly, I read through a report of the courses we delivered, over the past financial year, and it was damning reading. Some of them were running at 1,000% loss. And this is where our money is. All of our money comes out of training. Membership does not pay our way. It's only 15% of our total revenue. And so I thought, oh, this is dreadful. But the missing gap, because this was financial data, were how many participants were enrolled in each one of those courses. So you can see this is that treasure hunt. So we started talking about, well, what is a good number of participants to run in a course? And we considered both the financial return on investment, but also the learner experience. And so you can see where we were heading. And so we came to our Happy Meal KPI is the total average participants in a course.
Right.
Yeah. And we did some number crunching. So these were actually the exciting years because we didn't know anything. So the leadership team, there were only 5 of us back then. There's 16 of us today, not in the leadership, our total staff. So we sat down with our CFO and we built a model that basically showed the difference. If we only have 15 people in a class, this is how much money we make. But if you have 16 average participants, then this is how much money you make, and 17 and 18. And so we set our KPI as 17. And so we build our budgets on 17, and my team do somewhere between 18.5 and 19. They're just extraordinary. And they're really taken ownership around hitting that KPI. It's their KPI. I can't take it off them. They completely own it now. And so that's our Happy Meal KPI, the total average participants per class.
Great. That's great. And, financial data, you're right. It does help us tell a story. It helps us move our boards towards the decisions they need to make. It helps us in that transformation. I wonder, though, about non-financial information. We hear organizations say a lot of times, oh, this is our loss leader, or we have to listen first. And you guys talked about those people who can disrupt or distract you from your data. How do you balance listening and data? How do you make it personable but still data driven, member friendly and still data driven?
Can I, before you answer that, can I just sort of in support of that, I think I was kind of wanting to ask the same question, but around the kind of concept of impact versus, when I think of non-financial data, I'm thinking about what is and we know that, without some kind of longitudinal study, like you guys did, around that, we should get 10 years of data before we were really fully confident in where we were at. But understanding how we define our impact and having data that underpins that is, for me, what is is continually the great.
Right. Words like value and growth, or not growth per se, but value and engagement. To me, those are words that undermine a data culture.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I would agree 100%. But I know that Marion, you're smiling, and I'm like,
she has the answer.
Tell us how it doesn't undermine a data culture.
Well, I don't know that I have the answer, but I do have an approach. I need data. And look, to be honest, we're still getting better at this all the time because it is a quest. But some of the things we're looking at, and we know we just haven't got a collation, we haven't got the data consolidated, is, for example, we know that IAP2 is now starting to be embedded into policy. And that's one of our key advocacy goals, is to embed engagement into policy and legislative frameworks. And so we're seeing that happen. So we know the impact of the work that we're doing with our members is translating into policy frameworks, and not just, you must meet the IAP2 engagement standards, but your business plan needs to see a good engagement plan. So engagement minimum standards are being built into major projects, for example. So major projects, construction and infrastructure, drives engagement in Australia and New Zealand. There's no doubt about it. We've got a $260 billion pipeline of projects, and these are all going to impact on communities. And so that's what we're seeing. I think that's the best thing I can say in terms of our impact. that's what we're seeing. But certainly in my tenure as CEO, so I'm coming up to my 6-year anniversary, we've grown tremendously. We had 3,000 members when I started. We trained just over 2,000. We've had a review of the curriculum. We ended the financial year, so our financial year end is 30 June, with 14,000 members, and
wow.
we trained 7,500. So there's other ways to say, what is the impact of an association? So I have never focused on growth. I focus on transformation and value delivery. And if I get those things right, then you get growth.
Wow.
So boards are very focused on growth, but as a CEO, I'm focused on, what are the opportunities? How do we transform this organisation, and how do we really deliver value for the practice? Because associations are transforming themselves. It's no longer just about your members. It's about levels of participation.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's a challenge for associations, is that how do we measure impact? And you can do it at a granular level, but we're doing it at that really big strategic level.
Can we just stop the presses here? From 3,000 to 14,000? I mean,
yeah.
Bravo. That in just
it's pretty exciting, isn't it?
That is amazing. That is amazing. Yeah. Congratulations. That's great. I don't know. We haven't really touched on this because we've been so focused on the hard numbers. But what are your thoughts as more and more data circulates around and we get more and more data and there's generative data out there? What are your thoughts on data bias and how to use the right data to make the right decisions?
Yeah. Well, and I think humans are inherently biased, aren't we? And so I think you've just got to have an awareness. And I think that almost comes down to your culture and your diversity within your organization, doesn't it? And so these are bigger subjects, but you think about all the work around governance at the moment. They're really focusing on how do you encourage diversity around boards. And we're not just talking about gender diversity or, ethnicity or any of those things, but diversity of thought. And so that's all you can do is encourage diversity of thought. I work in a really transparent and open way with my whole team. And so we encourage people, that ownership around the total average participants per class. We see that within our team now, and different teams are collecting different pieces of data. And then when you consolidate it together, you can have a really robust conversation about it. Is it a perfect science? No, it's not. It just isn't. And I think one of the challenges for associations is we always want to be leading, whatever practice we're representing, but actually we're just trying to keep up with our members all the time, aren't we?
Well, data is one of those areas. I mean, as with anything in the tech environment, I feel like we're all a little behind, and it's easy to make excuses around our system isn't there. To your point, we have data silos, things aren't integrating. And I think people have to stop waiting for data perfection and just dive in and make progress. Just dive in and start counting, start measuring, start asking, because it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to have all the tools and infrastructure and accuracy that
or the money to achieve that.
Or the money.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of data challenges that associations face. So you've got data gaps and data silos that we've already talked about. But you've also got poor data hygiene and accuracy, and that can lead to the biasness question that you were talking about. You've got a lack of ability to segment and therefore model to inform decisions. Or lack of tracking, like you say, AI, the impact of AI on associations is going to be significant. I'm actually off to a forum next week because I think it's a really exciting and scary opportunity for associations. So there's a huge amount of data challenges that CEOs and leadership teams face, and these all impact on our decision-making ability. And I think the other thing is our own curiosity. So there is some discipline that comes into this because you have to determine what is the data that's important, and it might be important for now, because we are always compromising. And what is the data that's just interesting? And I know I'm guilty of that myself. I go, oh, that's interesting, but it's actually not. It's just distracting, actually. But it was fun finding out about it, and it was like, yeah, but Does it change anything? No. But, so you've got to have that personal discipline around what is the important stuff we need for now and what is just the interesting, because the interesting can be very distracting.
I think it is, as you're talking, I'm thinking, we spend, on the pod, we cover everything on the pods. We talk about all different facets of, the association worlds. But for me, and we were always talking about how, you need to be able to prioritize, you need to be able to sort of invest time and resources and effort and money into X, Y, and Z. Otherwise, it's never going to really come to fruition. You're never going to really benefit if you're done. But for me, the data piece, for me, the data piece is the one where everybody just needs to give themselves time to understand it, time and effort for it. And Lisa's, you're absolutely spot on. As you say, you wait for the perfect data, you're never going to get it. But I also think it's not just that people are waiting for that unicorn data. It's actually that they're not necessarily appreciating that how much just time they've got to give it. But once they've done that, once they've invested that energy at once, it doesn't need to be that same level of investment if you're continually maintaining the quality and the use of your data. But so for me, and I think what I'm hearing here is it's as with almost everything, it's very much about culture. It's about your leadership culture. Because at the end of the day, data it's a tool. It's a tool. It's a piece. It's incredibly important and useful, tangible that we can use to inform our decision making, and we should be using it. It should be central to it. But we have to have the culture that values.
Yes.
And for me, when we're seeing those organizations that are just randomly just putting together the usual, like you say, either the that's quite interesting stuff, or the stuff they just think the data that we should have, when actually it's, we've all worked in organizations where we've sat on mountains of data that nobody looks at because nobody needs it. But if we had just given ourselves more time to really, really think about what's the data that we probably would find that is maybe only 2 or 3 nuggets sometimes but they're really crucial to what we need.
Really crucial. I think you're right. And I've got 2 little stories. When I worked in the commercial sector, I was COO and we had a new CFO start, and he just stopped all of the monthly reporting that came out of the finance team. And so, at the end of the month, I go to get my reports and the accountant tells me, oh, you can't have them, but we're not doing them anymore. And I went, what? Really? And the end of the second month, I thought, where's my report? I can't make decisions about this business if I don't have that report. So I go next door into the CFO's office and I stamp my little feet and he goes, of course you can have those reports. I was just waiting to see who actually needs them. So sometimes withholding information, because I think, as a CEO, you're constantly straddling, the board's, what does the board need to make decisions and what are they interested in? And what's your level of data maturity? How much work is it going to take you to provide this information to the board? Is it a few hours? Is it 50 hours? Is it 100 hours? So your data maturity as an organization is going to impact into that. But that you're absolutely right, Andrew, about that culture piece. So when we worked out a lot of data and we worked out what courses were profitable and how frequently we needed to run them and everything, it was great. I knew all of that, and I sort of shared it with my sales manager and said, "Go forth and have fun." Anyway, there was no go forthing and there was no go funning, and so we work in a distributed model around Australia, and so I said to her, I tell you what, why don't we spend the day together on this? Because she didn't get it. She couldn't work with it. She didn't have that same courage of playing with data that I did. And she didn't, want to go exploring in it. It wasn't exciting for her. And so she came up to Brisbane and we locked ourselves in a meeting room and we whiteboarded everything. And it's, it's now more professionally called the formula. So we have a formula for our public training schedule. And it just hums. And again, the team now own it. So it's the formula, but at the time it was called the recipe, because, it's the essential ingredient into the profitability of our organization. But I needed to invest that time with her because it just wasn't her thing and it wasn't going to go anywhere, and I wasn't going to change her mindset if I left her to do it by herself. So sometimes I think you've just got to, for me, slow down a little bit and walk beside people to say, what is it that you need from me? How can I make this better? So a day of my time a couple of years ago, and look at the return on investment on that. It's been huge. So yeah, that culture piece, you've got to make data accessible and usable for all. And you've got to encourage them that it's not scary. It's just not scary. And the value, this is the data you're collecting it, and this is how we're using it. And this is the value we're getting from it as an organization.
Well, there's so many layers to this, and I can't remember which of you mentioned data maturity, but I think it reminds me that there is a level of maturity around data for an organization, for an individual staff member, and even a data maturity of a board, their expectations, their ability to digest, not just to have the information, but then to use it to make decisions. And we're all starting from a different place. So meeting your staff where they are, meeting your board where they are, and making data interesting and safe and usable is really inspiring. And Marion, I love your passion for data. You make me want to go dive into some survey results, or a P&L statement, or I don't know. I'm hungry for some data myself. I appreciate you bringing that passion to us. And you're now a member of the Association Transformation family, and we'd love to have you back anytime, because data is always evolving. I'm sure you're going to figure out new recipes and new happy meals and KPIs. So thank you so much for bringing this to us and for staying a data warrior out there on your quest. We really appreciate it.
It's been wonderful to join you both today. Thank you so much.
Andrew, I'll remind you and our listeners to, you can make Association Transformation one of your favorites wherever you get podcasts, and we encourage you to do so. You can check out now all 80 plus episodes that we've put together so far. So congratulations on 81, my friend.
Are we planning like a big centenary? Are we going to have,
what's the number for 80? Oh, we should definitely do 100. Yes.
That's it. 100 is what
When are we scheduled for 100? Like around New Year's?
No, look, I was looking at it. I think it's like 2025.
Oh my God.
We're only doing 2 a month. Oh,
we're so lazy.
Must be 2024, because we're doing 24 episodes a month. So it's going to be sometime this time next year sometime.
Okay, yes, we absolutely have to do it together, because again, I don't think people appreciate that we've only spent like one afternoon together in person. All these podcasts, all these years, we've never really met or spent a ton of time together. And we love Association Transformation. We love bringing you subject matter experts and association leaders like Marion. So yes, we definitely have to plan something, maybe a party with all of our guests.
Well, I don't know if all of our guests are still talking to me, but actually, as an aside, I was at the MEMCOM conference in the UK a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not joking. I know we joke about our listeners in Belgium, but dozens of people came up and said they listened to the podcast, and I couldn't help but look surprised. It was an awful reaction.
Surprised? Act like
really? Like, oh yeah, I love the podcast. I'm like, God, someone else listens to it.
Don't erode our credibility with your imposter syndrome, okay? Get it together. But yes, onward, upward. We are excited to continue, and we'll sprinkle in some lighter, fun, goofy conversations. We've done a lot of tech, a lot of data, a lot of heavy stuff that has made me better. I know it's made you much smarter. So we'll continue on, and until then, put your members and your mission first.